things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner, is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. Is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner, is it in her? Just illusion, manifestation, or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Don't you wish that your weekend was longer than just 2 days? Well, if so, then you're in luck, because here on Ripon Common Sense Radio, our weekend begins on Wednesday. Yes, you heard that right. Our weekend kicks off every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, with Dark Wolf's Den, starring yours truly, Jerry the Dark Wolf. But that's where the fun has only just begun. Make sure you come back every Thursday through Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, for the Ripon Rabbit Hole Live Show, starring AJ the Ripon Rabbit. He dives into the archives of vocal legend Art Bell and brings those stories up to date. So make sure that you spend your extended weekends with the Animals Radio, Jerry the Dark Wolf and AJ the Ripon Rabbit, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, every Wednesday through Sunday, right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson with Reality Shifters and the International Mandela Effect Conference, and you're now listening to Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light, and you're now listening to Dark Wolf's Den.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation. Don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret mountain cave, hidden deep within the Idaho wilderness, this is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to another episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, the edge of your seat, or anywhere in between, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is October 7th, 2020, and we are kicking off Spooktober the right way. That's right, it is the first weekend in Spooktober. I hope everybody enjoyed our Immortals episode that began Spooktober this month, and we're gonna keep on keeping on. That's right, we're gonna talk about werewolves tonight, one of my favorite topics, as you guys could guess. Oh yeah, we're gonna be howling at those wolves tonight, October 7th, 2020, on the Dark Wolf's Den Show, exclusively on Ripon Common Sense Radio. But first, today in history. On this day in 1916, the most lopsided score in the history of U.S. college football occurred. That's right. Georgia Tech, coached by John Heisman himself, defeats Cumberland. Check this score out, guys. This is insane. The score was 222-0. You gotta love those trip twos, right? And ladies and gentlemen, that is today's Today in History. And an odd score indeed. Quite lopsided for sure, but odd nonetheless. And oddities is something that we do love around here. You see, werewolves is something that has intrigued me for a very, very long time. I didn't used to think that they could be real creatures. They were just, movies, pop culture, characters that we see on TV, right? You guys remember the old Wolfman movies, right? The old black and white movies. Or maybe something a little more recent like Twilight. I gotta say, I did like the wolves that they had in Twilight. But, that said, the werewolf myth has existed for a very, very long time, and it's one of those, quote, myths that reaches across many different cultures. One of those myths that might not be as much myth as truth, perhaps. But what I find interesting is when I looked into werewolves years and years ago, and you guys know I've been a fan of these creatures for a long time. But when I looked into them, there was something called lycanthropy. And the only explanation for lycanthropy was the fact that hair grew all over the skin. In every portion, from head to toe, it was covered in hair, like a walking wolf person. And I could understand that being a medical condition. I totally get that. However, lycanthropy now has another definition. That's right. According to what I can find, lycanthropy is actually a psychotic condition where one believes that they turn into a wolf or an animal, or truly believes that they are just an animal. Now, that is not the definition that I remember. Not at all. As a matter of fact, that's brand new, at least to me. But according to what I see, it's been that way for a long time. So I'm calling Mandela effect, at least for myself, on that one. But getting back to the original topic, werewolves, let's find out how old the lore really goes.
Even a man who is pure of heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. Chilling words that describe the hopelessness and fear faced by those with lycanthropy. By day they are normal human beings. They go to work, eat breakfast, and love their families, just as you and I. However, during full moon nights, every month, they transform into a terrifying wolf beast, hell-bent on killing to satiate their terrible desire for flesh.
What is really interesting is, if you remember when we did the Moon Madness episode, we spoke about lunacy and how the full moon really does affect the human body and the human mind, right? Well, this is just another example, in my opinion, of one of the forms of lunacy, right? That would make sense to me. If it can have an effect on people, why couldn't it have a stranger effect on some than others?
Bestowed by deities or evil magicians, the curse of the werewolf is often inflicted on those who have slighted their god or insulted a witch, and is incredibly difficult to remove. Often the only treatment is to lock the poor afflicted soul away until the transformation has run its course, leaving the cursed person to live a normal life until the next full moon, whereupon their captivity will begin again.
I mean, of all the curses, I don't think becoming a wolf is like the worst curse, right? Or is it? Could there be things about this curse that are just a little bit worse than running around in a new form?
These extreme steps are necessary due to the incredible strength that the werewolf possesses. And, what's more, is that the transformed is overcome with a bestial rage that lasts the duration of the transformation. Naturally, this threatens all those around the werewolf, loved ones and community members, and even surrounding fauna. None are safe from the violence of this monster.
Okay, so maybe this curse is just a little bit worse than I had originally gave it credit for. I couldn't imagine being in a consistent state of rage for a whole night or that long at any given time. That definitely can't be good for the heart, right?
Apart from sorcery or blasphemy, the curse can also be transferred by the bite of another werewolf, should a victim of a werewolf be fortunate enough to survive an attack.
Although I'm not sure fortunate would be the right word to use there for surviving an attack, because perhaps you would rather have not survived the attack and become what you are going to become, and take on the curse that you will take on every full moon.
They will soon regret their good luck, as they shall find that they too are afflicted with the curse. Poor fortune and lax piety are not the only means by which one may become a werewolf.
Well, so far I'm not really happy with the choices of how to become a werewolf. What other choices do you have for me, buddy?
Those who carry malice in their hearts or seek power may use relics and rituals with the intent of employing this curse to mask their own evil deeds. A pact with the devil, or magical ointment, and even something as simple as sleeping naked outside during a full moon can cause this curse to manifest.
And there are actually a couple other ways around the world that are rumored to cause a werewolf.
Another is a wolf skin. It is said that you can become a werewolf by wearing the skin of a wolf that must have been provided by the devil himself in exchange for your soul. The skin has to be hidden in a tree trunk, and when the full moon comes out, the devil-owned wolf skin will make you into a real werewolf with the same powers.
Now that is interesting. Not only is it a curse, but it's also a deal with the devil himself that can cause a werewolf. Now that is very intriguing.
Scandinavian, French, and German people who were in the know are said to be able to change into a werewolf by using a magic ointment that consisted of the blood of a bat, the fat off of a dead cat, mixed with opium and aniseed.
Would you take that kind of potion, huh? That witch's brew that they just described? Would you take that to become a werewolf? Or perhaps that just makes them crazy and makes them think they're a werewolf. But remember, by the definition of lycanthropy, that's all it takes is to believe that one is.
Another supposed method of turning into a werewolf was to eat a wolf's brain and also drinking water from the footprint of a wolf's paw. This was not a choice, it was a way of turning you into a werewolf against your own will, by whoever that may be.
And yet again, it is used as a curse.
There was also a way of cursing a family too. Don't forget, when it's daytime or not a full moon, a werewolf is leading an everyday normal life, so it's a strong possibility that a werewolf is going to have children. The werewolf curse is passed on to any son that was born to the family. The only way this could have been broken is if all werewolves in the family were killed.
I think they would call that a pack of werewolves, would they not? A whole family? Or is it passed along genetically? Could the children of one that has lycanthropy pass it down generation to generation, perhaps?
You may have heard about werewolves being killed by a silver bullet, so how do you actually kill a wolf? Or at least free the man from the curse of the werewolf? Well, it is true that werewolves can be killed by silver bullets if aimed correctly. You can even have the bullet blessed by a priest first too, if you'd like.
We've all heard of holy water, but holy bullets? That's a new one on me. Holy bullets, Batman.
Werewolves have a dislike to silver, so it may be a good idea to carry something silver if you suspect someone you know is one. When a werewolf is killed by a silver bullet, he will then change back into the ordinary, everyday man. Unfortunately, he will remain dead.
That is definitely not gonna separate the man from the curse. That just ends both, right?
Here's another way from olden times. Remember earlier in this video we talked about wearing a wolf's skin that was from the devil and hidden in a tree? Well, if you can find the tree and the skin and burn it, that will also be one less werewolf to deal with.
And I do find a certain irony that the pelt given by the devil himself can be burnt, let alone that's how to deal with it.
Another old way would be to call out the werewolf's real name from when he was a man. The problem with this is, when he's a werewolf, how are you going to know what his name is?
I guess that would only work if you've really done your detective work and have figured out who the werewolf was, right? Just hope you're not wrong in calling out a whole list of names. Then again, if you just stood there and started yelling names, right, perhaps you'd accidentally run up on the right one.
3 drops of blood is also said to be a capable cure, but not always. Once again, you need to know who the werewolf is, as the 3 drops must come from the werewolf when he's in human mode. Werewolves come in different breeds and from different parts of the world, but they're not everywhere.
And what would be the earliest tales of this particular curse in history?
The early stories seem to surface from the ancient Greeks. Each breed member is said to have different strengths ranging from Omega, Beta, and Alpha, although that may not have always been the case. Let's look first at the original 4 types of werewolf breeds. These are Lakota, North American, Asian, and the strongest, biggest, and most likely to pull you apart, the European werewolf. It's also reported that it's possible that werewolves go back as far as dinosaurs.
Now this is new information to me. I've never heard of them going back to the time of dinosaurs.
Starting from a raptor type of creature, with DNA passed along from bite to bite, bringing us to werewolves as we perceive them today. Lakota werewolf. The Lakota werewolf has a slight difference. With werewolves being bloodthirsty man-eaters, this pack of wolves originally had parts of an Alaskan human tribe included, so it became a huge problem when werewolves first started to eat the human tribe members of the pack.
This particular Lakota, Alaskan Inuit, I'm assuming, pack actually had stories of a pack of werewolves that lived amongst them. Now that is interesting indeed.
Eventually, this was brought under control as they became accustomed to eating animals. The Lakota werewolf is greatly respected by the human members and are very confidential as to who are the werewolves. Even in werewolf form, they keep a humanoid shape.
Now this is quite an oddity amongst werewolves. Now lycans or lycanthrope are those with lycanthropy, which we'll get more into in the second half of the show. But those with that affliction, I guess you would say, don't actually turn according to the true definition. They just believe so in their minds, right? Well, maybe that's not entirely the case. Perhaps these particular werewolves kept a human form, albeit still looked wolf-like.
They hunt in packs of 15, no more, no less. If one dies, then one of the human ex-tribe members of the pack becomes a fully fledged werewolf. Their eyes glow too, with no two pack members sharing exactly the same color.
Now that's interesting, because we always think of these creatures of the night, these werewolves and vampires and all these dark, horrible creatures. We think of them having red eyes, yet these different pack members have different colors, and none of which are the same.
On transformation, the fingers and toenails become thick and sharp like claws, and their teeth become like a wild dog's. The animals they hunt are black and grizzly bears, with the odd moose thrown in for dessert. They're also quick to heal if they're wounded by silver-based objects.
Regeneration, that's yet another scary aspect of a lot of these creatures of the night, is the fact that they can regenerate when they're injured. This specifically says when they're injured by silver, which is really weird because, as we know, silver usually is much deadlier to a werewolf.
The North American werewolf. This werewolf has black eyeballs and have super strong hearing and tracking qualities. Upon transforming from a human, their toes go from 5 to 4, and their strength increased by times from their human form. They don't walk on all fours at all. They walk and run on their hind legs, and when the full moon comes along, they hunt mainly humans, although they roam in the country and tend to avoid towns and cities, but that's not set in stone. They have been known to have been around the countryside for around 1,000 years, although they don't expand quickly as if they have to become the same breed of werewolf. Then this can only happen by a bite and saliva, and due to them eating humans, not too many survive the ordeal.
And we all know that certain tribal nations actually believe that they can transform into different animal forms, including that of a wolf. Would that not be a werewolf in its truest form? Even the skinwalkers are said to have a wolf form that they travel within. So that is intriguing that all across North America, these different indigenous tribes have different stories of the werewolves, albeit a more venerated creature there.
The Asian werewolf. This werewolf is the one that will look like an actual gray wolf, only stronger, has white eyes, and shorter front legs than the back. It walks on all fours after shapeshifting the most after the full moon transformation is complete. The strength for this werewolf increases by 20%. The biggest difference with this werewolf is that when a werewolf dies, then it shapeshifts back to human form, although it remains dead. With the Asian werewolf, the initial shapeshift transformation is so severe that it will remain a werewolf if it dies. Although they may be a lot lesser in strength compared to other breeds, they make up for this by speed and tracking smell. They're the best trackers in the werewolf business. There have been sightings of this werewolf all over Asia, and not just in certain parts. This werewolf can also reproduce sexually as a human and as a werewolf with a human by biting and infecting victims with their saliva.
It does intrigue me the differences between the types of wolves that are described in these stories, albeit with pretty well the same attributes.
The European werewolf. Running into any werewolf is going to be an unpleasant experience, and maybe your final one. But if you run into a European werewolf, then you're going to need more than prayers and luck to survive. Out of all the werewolves, it's the biggest, strongest, and most dangerous and nastiest. This beast is hairless, and is part man, part wolf, and total beast. When they shapeshift from human to werewolf, they triple in width and double in height,
making them the absolute biggest amongst the werewolf breeds.
They have green eyes, and their claws can cut through metal. They live until around 300 years, and don't start slowing down until age 250.
Well, that would definitely be a way to extend one's life if one can survive the entire time.
They have an ongoing need to feed off human flesh, although it can still be killed with a silver bullet through the head or a silver sword through the heart. I'd say the silver bullet is the safer option, just don't miss.
And that one there is very weirdly specific on where exactly to put the silver to kill the werewolf.
A European werewolf can take the strength of another werewolf and strengthen itself even more. However, they do have a weakness.
And that actually reminds me a lot of the character of the Highlander from Scotland, who kills the other ones to take on their power and becomes stronger when they take over the other ones. This sounds like the same thing, taking on other werewolves and destroying them to gain their powers.
Every so often, a European werewolf will enter the territory of a European vampire.
And we shall be covering vampires on here very, very soon. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, vampires will definitely be on the menu.
European vampires can live up to 500 years and become stronger by savaging and killing a European werewolf.
Again, this reminds me of the stories of the Highlander from Scotland and taking the abilities of one over to another.
Going back to the earlier mentioned Omega, Beta, and Alpha werewolves. Even though werewolves have been around for thousands of years, the Omega, Beta, and Alpha strength levels did not exist until 1947, when the level of strength was brought in over the Grey Wolf, with the parents being the Alpha and so on. So for it to reach werewolf breed or pack individual strengths, these titles are from a more modern time, and werewolves, whether it came from books, television, or other sources, were originally unheard of in the werewolf kingdom many years ago.
So the Alpha, Beta, Omega, and so on are a new addition, but we all know from watching the Animal Kingdom that there is definitely a hierarchy amongst packs of wolves. But we're gonna go ahead and take a network break right here, guys, and we'll be back for the second half where we're gonna discuss the actual real life cases and case files that we found of real werewolves. So don't you go anywhere, and we'll be right back after these messages for the second half of the Dark Wolves Den Show. Don't you touch that dial.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Sex in the city? Nope. Interview with a vampire? Nope. If you build it, they will come? Febreze? Tweeze in the middle? Wrong again. Depends. Nope. Welcome to the Twilight Zone, my friends. A phenomenon known as the Mandela Effect. You may have heard of it. You may want to not neglect. Unbecoming, awake, and spiritually inclined. So sit back, relax, while I blow your mind. Take the thumb off the cell, stop following the sheep. Down the rabbit hole we go. Are you ready for that leap? The Zapruder film, #JFK. I looked at the footage and I said, what the heck? How come there are 6 people in that dang car? Stretch limo, for me, this was all too bizarre. A glass behind the driver. No way, Jose. I remember before in the car, my mind was in total disarray. Trying to make sense of what I was seeing, what I was witnessing. Didn't connect with my inner being. A second woman in the car for me was only the first lady. Do you smell what the rock is cooking? All this seemed kinda shady. Berenstein Bears. Nope. Shazam? Sinbad? Not in this reality. Good lord. An awakening. Was it all a revelation? The naysayers and skeptics call it confabulation. They say you misremembered and call us bat crazy. Did you smoke a doob? Maybe that's why it's a little bit hazy. Unless you experience it, you'll never know. But enough of that. On with this Mandela effect flow. Mandela effect in the house. What in the world happened to Ed McMahon? In this reality, Publishers Clearinghouse was not a fan. Never the spokesperson, but we remember it clear as day. McMahon holding that check while the winner yelled out, "Yay!" American Family Publishers. Never heard of them until now. This Mandela effect has me raising the people's eyebrow. So many theories on what it could be. Have you ever heard of CERN and the LHC? Luke, I am your father. Nope. Sally Fields? Nope. Wrong again. That stands for the Large Hadron Collider. I thought I would mention. You know, the machine that opens up portals into different dimensions? You're probably thinking that this is all science fiction, but you gotta think outside the box and have no restrictions. Alternate realities and parallel dimensions. Okay, I get some of your apprehensions. Could this all be a spiritual evolution? Cause the human race has grown tired of this toxic pollution. Mandela effect in the house. Crazy. Some people, they just don't understand. That's just the way it is. You know? Stay strong, my friends. That's just the way it is. Dolly has no braces? Are you serious? Good lord. Joel Osteen. So what the heck happened to the owl? Oh my gosh. Oh, this is definitely the Twilight Zone. This is crazy. Anyhow.
Oh yeah, anyhow. The best rap. The best Mandela effect rap on the internet. Juanito 1975. Hi everyone, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit. Are you enjoying tonight's look at Dark Wolf's Den? Werewolves. If you've enjoyed the show up to this point, make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. We're here every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, bringing you the very best of Common Sense Radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. I'll be back again tomorrow night, Thursday, for a look at arachnophobia. Are you afraid of spiders? And if so, what does that mean and how could you take care of it? Join me tomorrow night, Thursday, October 8th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, as we dive through the Spooktober rabbit hole of arachnophobia. Then Friday night, a unique look at funeral homes. That's right, it wouldn't be Halloween without stepping inside a funeral home or two. So we're going to take a look at the industry of the funeral homes and just what it means this time of year. Saturday night, we'll kick off horror movies. What makes us tick when it comes to the scare clock? What in those movies really freaks us out and why? We're going to take a look at that and dive in through that rabbit hole Saturday night. So that's the 8th, 9th, 10th, Saturday, October 10th. Then Sunday, October 11th, Scarecrows and Clowns. Oh, as we end the weekend out right, together with a special look at Scarecrows and Clowns for Spooktober. Are you afraid of scarecrows? What about clowns? Put a 1 in the chat room if either one freak you out. And if that's the case, join me as we end out the weekend together right Sunday, October 10th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. What an amazing lineup this entire Spooktober month is going to be. And of course, we're sponsors of ourtrickortreat.com, which kicks off October 15th. If you haven't had a chance to do so, please make sure you visit that, as well as the Ripon Rabbit Hole, where you can find an additional amount of groups and fun things to do over there at our website, riponrabbithole.com, where the conversation continues after the show in the VIP chat lounge. Always a great area. Now, in that area, you have the ability to connect your camera and a microphone, pull up a chair, and join in the conversation all night long. We'll be back to werewolves here at the Dark Wolf's Den Show, exclusively on Ripon Common Sense Radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Stick around, a lot more to come. Don't touch that dial. Are you ready for the ultimate Halloween experience? This year, with all the social distancing taking place, Halloween, contrary to popular belief, has not been canceled. I repeat, Halloween has not been canceled. The Ripon Rabbit Hole is proud to sponsor a unique virtual Halloween event taking place October 15th through the 31st exclusively at ourtrickortreat.com. That's O-U-R, trickortreat.com. Sign up and knock on virtual doors for 17 days straight to win a variety of prizes from national, state, and local sponsors. Check out ourtrickortreat.com for the ultimate Halloween experience this year.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, the edge of your seat, or anywhere in between, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. That's right. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we're howling at werewolves. You notice old Dark Wolf has come out tonight, the true form, to host this episode. That's right. You know, in the first half, we talked about a lot of the woo-woo side of the werewolf topic. But are there actual real-life encounters with werewolves? Actually, you might be surprised at the answer. And to present this information, I've brought back one of our old friends from Strange But True Stories. You guys might just remember him.
I'm Steve White. Today, we're going on a journey, not only to a distant location, but a much different time. More than 250 years ago in rural France, a creature terrorized villages, spreading fear and panic amongst the locals. It was a creature of incredible size and ferocity, and it showed little mercy for its victims once it had them in its incredible jaws.
This is actually one of the most well-known case files amongst all of the werewolf files.
June 30th, 1764, in the southern French region of Gévaudan, a mysterious creature lurked in the shadows, spying 14-year-old Jean Boulet. The teenage girl was watching her sheep, as she did on most days. Unfortunately, this would be her last day on Earth. The creature leaped from its hiding place, ripping at her tender throat, killing her in a quick but brutal manner. This was the first of hundreds of savage killings in a 3-year reign of terror in the area. It was not the first attack by this creature, however. 3 months prior, a young girl tending her cows came face to face with what she described as a wolf. yet not a wolf. She was spared when her cattle defended her against the beast, chasing it away.
I have to say that is one oddity of the story, that the cattle actually rose up against the creature. Because as we know, most paranormal creatures are feared by natural creatures as much as humans. But these cattle didn't care. They ran for it and actually ran it away.
Now, it took some time, but news of the attacks and mutilations traveled around the country, reaching to the palace in Versailles, and even becoming an international story as the body count climbed.
So this story was so famous it actually made international headlines.
And yet, even now, 253 years after the final victim fell prey to the creature's sharp teeth and claws, we still don't know for sure what kind of creature wreaked such havoc. It's a story that reads kind of like a Brothers Grimm fairy tale, as many villagers cowered in their homes, afraid to go much farther than their front door, while a few brave souls hunted and fought with the beast. Soon there were bounties offered for the capture or its killing.
Although those may scoff at this idea, this was real enough to these townsfolk to put up a bounty, dead or alive, to capture this creature.
On October 8, 1764, the creature struck again, killing and partially eating a woman who walked a forest path.
And as today's date is October 7th, I find this very, very fitting. Today in history, October 8th, a lady is killed by a werewolf.
With the woman's partially eaten remains cooling in the woods of Gévaudan. The beast was seen in the vicinity of Chateau de la Baume, stalking a man tending his herd of cattle. Hunters chased the creature into the woods behind the estate and managed to flush the animal into the open. The hunters shot their muskets, and the creature fell. The hunters began to boast that they had brought down the evil being.
Surely that must be the end of the story, right? They took down the werewolf, but I wonder, did they use silver?
But after a few moments, La Bête du Gévaudan got back on its feet and ran off. Also known as La Bête Féroce, or ferocious beast, it continued to attack, targeting mostly women and children. But it would occasionally hunt lone adult men as well. The attacks grew more prevalent, and speculation began that there was more than one of these beasts.
There's rarely ever only one.
Zut alors. A little history to give some perspective of the time. France was just beginning its recovery from the 7 Years' War, which, unfortunately for the French, did not go so well. The French suffered losses to the English and the Prussians, which in turn led to loss of much of the French Empire globally. Also, there was a burgeoning news media at this point in France's history. These new journalists were eager for interesting news to spread around the country. More attacks and additional stories of bravery fed the journalists' quills and filled their pages. La Bête du Gévaudan was consistently described by eyewitnesses as something other than a typical wolf. It was a big animal, equal to the size of a horse. It had a snout like a calf, and its coat was long reddish-gray with a strong panther-like tail.
And this does sound very much like the European werewolf.
The head and legs were short-haired, and the shade of a deer. It had a black stripe on its back and talons on its feet. Drawings of the beast at the time showed the creature with wolf-like features, though. Witnesses also said it was an ambush hunter, stalking its prey and seizing it by the throat. The wounds found on the bodies were typically to the head and limbs, with the remains of 16 victims reportedly decapitated. It preferred to hunt in the evening or early morning. Other witnesses claimed the beast had supernatural abilities. It could walk on its hind feet, and its hide could repel bullets.
This is also the first time I've heard of a werewolf's hide that could repel bullets.
And it had fire in its eyes, and it came back from the dead more than once. and had amazing leaping ability, one witness was quoted as saying. More and more attacks occurred in 1764, so local officials took action. Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel, a leader of the local infantry, and Etienne Lafont, a regional government delegate, organized the first concerted attack. At one point, the number of volunteers was nearly 30,000 men. Duhamel organized the men along military models, left poisoned bait, and even had some soldiers dressed as women in hopes of attracting the beast. In his telling of the story, Jean-Marc Morisseau wrote that a reward for killing the beast eventually equaled a year's salary for the hunters.
Now that is indeed quite a bounty.
Unfortunately, this effort did not produce any results, and the beast, or beasts, continued to prowl, taking victims as easily as before. But it did seem to run into trouble when attacking groups of children. On January 12, 1765, the beast attacked 10-year-old Jacques Portefeuille and 7 other boys between the ages of 8 and 12. However, Portefeuille led a counterattack with sticks, driving off the creature. Now, this story made it to the ears of Louis XV. King Louis rewarded Portefeuille with an education paid for by the king himself.
A free education for showing valor while fighting off a werewolf.
The children's bravery prompted King Louis XV to send royal hunters to destroy the beast, placing a large bounty on the beast's head. Newspapers as far away as Boston started printing stories of La Bête du Gévaudan, making this one of the first sensational media stories in world history. Then on August 11th, 1765, 19-year-old Marie-Jeanne Vallée was crossing the River Dège with her sister. The creature approached the two, but Vallée was up to the fight. Armed with a bayonet affixed to a pole, Vallée impaled the beast's chest. The creature got away, but Vallée became known as Maid of Gévaudan.
So with the creature on the loose and returning to a human form, would he keep the same wound? Would he be found by such a way?
More than 200 years later, a statue was erected in the southern French village of Auvers, commemorating her bravery in staving off La Bête Féroce. Finally, news arrived of success in tracking and the taking of the creature. On September 20th, 1765, Francois Antoine, the king's 71-year-old gun-bearer, and his nephew shot a large wolf in Chaise, near an abbey. The creature was a large wolf, and it was assumed to be the beast that had been terrorizing the area. Antoine was rewarded handsomely with money and titles, and the corpse of the animal was stuffed and sent to the royal court. But the attacks didn't stop. In December 1765, the beast struck again, taking down another herdsman. But the creature's behavior was said to be a little different. In previous attacks, eyewitnesses claimed it was fearful of cows, but this time, the creature struck without any fear of anything around him, and left behind only remnants of the man. Was this evidence of a second beast? Or confirmation that the king's men hadn't taken down the actual creature?
I would go with a second beast myself, but let's see what happens.
Reports of up to 35 additional victims poured in, but the royal court ignored these, insisting that Antoine had killed the creature. But a sudden outbreak of attacks in the early days of June 1767 compelled a local nobleman to organize another hunt. On June 19th, one of the hunters, a local man named Jean Chastel, shot the creature on the slopes of Mount Mouchet, downing it with a single silver bullet. The animal was cut open, and the stomach of the creature revealed human remains inside. This animal had non-wolf characteristics, as described by witnesses. The attacks ended, but while it was assumed that the beast Chastel bagged was the beast, doubts remained that it was indeed a wolf. So, if not a wolf, what could it have been?
What could it have been indeed? And I know a lot of you may say, yeah, that's an old story, perhaps just a tale, right? Well, actually, there's a little bit more. We spoke earlier of clinical lycanthropy and how that is a real-life thing. Now we're going to hear 5 stories of real-life clinical lycanthropy. Oh, yeah.
The werewolf is one of the most iconic and terrifying of all myths and legends. And while many are safe in the belief that they are just a fantasy, there are documented cases of real-life werewolves. In fact, there is even a medical term for it, clinical lycanthropy. If it sounds hard to believe, then keep watching.
On this show, hard to believe is much easier than one would think, right?
Giles Garnier. Giles Garnier lived a secluded forest life in 15th century France. One day, he fell in love with a woman from the nearby village of Dole, and she joined him in his forest abode. However, Giles found his new life challenging, as he had always lived off the land and fended for himself.
And it's interesting that this is yet another story out of Friends.
Providing for his new wife was not something he was used to. It wasn't long before children began to go missing from the nearby village. Each night, a new set of parents would wake up to find their child's bed empty. And one morning, the mutilated remains of a 10-year-old boy were found in the woods. At first, the authorities believed they were dealing with some kind of ferocious animal. But then, during a combing of the forest, the search party came across a gruesome scene. A dead child. Crouching over the body was at first thought to be a wolf, but torchlight revealed it was Giles. After being arrested, Giles confessed to the killings, stating he had abducted 4 children to feed himself and his wife. He claimed that one night while hunting, he was approached by what he thought was the devil, who gave him an ointment that would allow him to transform into a wolf, and that's when the killings began.
And that, interestingly enough, reminds me of the ointment-type concoction that we heard of in the first half.
Whatever Giles's motivations, his crimes were all too real, and he was burned at the stake in 1873.
I would assume that burning at the stake would work just as well as the silver bullet, right?
Manuel Blanco Romasanta. Born in 18th century Spain, Manuel Blanco Romasanta had a very strange upbringing. He was raised a girl up until the age of 6, which is believed to have led to a number of issues with his mental health and sense of self. Manuel grew up to live a life of further misfortune. His wife died at a young age, and this prompted him to become a travelling salesman. He struggled to make a living, and when he found himself at the mercy of debt collectors, he fled to Portugal to start a new life as a guide, navigating people through the treacherous mountain passes. Although suspicion soon fell on him when several women and children he had been guiding mysteriously vanished. An investigation found that Manuel had in fact murdered 5 people, including a 12-year-old girl, in order to sell their belongings, and even more disturbingly, to sell soaps he had made of their fat. During his trial, Manuel stated he was afflicted with lycanthropy, believing he had committed the murders while in his wolf form. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, and has gone down in history as Spain's first recorded serial killer.
As well as most likely its first recorded werewolf, right?
Jean Grenier. During the spring of 1603, the farming villages of Gascony, France were under siege. Children were mysteriously vanishing, sometimes when they were accompanied by friends. And even in one case, a baby was snatched from his cradle and never seen again. Then one night, 13-year-old Marguerite Poitier came home covered in blood. Her wounds were so savage, her family thought she'd been mauled by a wolf. After calming down, Marguerite assured them that her attacker had been a boy of around her age, who had come bounding from the forest like an animal to attack her. But she managed to fend him off with a stick before he could kill her. Just days after this incident, 14-year-old Jean Grenier confessed to his town that he was in fact the one behind the carnage. Jean was immediately arrested, and he told the jury that he'd been given a wolf pelt, and whenever he wore it, he suddenly felt the urge to hunt and prey upon children.
And once again, this reminds me of the wolf pelt from the first part of the show that speaks about the pelt given by the devil and stored in a tree, and the only way to kill the werewolf was to burn the tree with the pelt inside of it. Here we have another story in France of this pelt coming up once again.
Jean was ruled to be insane and was locked up for life at the friary, a gentle fate for someone who had committed such heinous crimes and caused mass terror in the farming villages of Gascony.
Perhaps he wasn't so mentally unstable after all.
Peter Stuber. Peter Stuber was born in the 15th century in the quiet farming community of Rhineland in Germany. At the time, nobody could have predicted that he would become known as the werewolf of Bedburg. From 1564 to 1589, Peter claimed 18 victims.
This is yet another very, very popular and very well-known case file among werewolf files.
All women and children, whom he horribly mutilated with his own bare hands and teeth. In some cases, he partially ate his victims raw. He would also kill livestock in the same manner. When he was eventually captured by the authorities, he was tortured into confession and told his captors that he had practiced black magic from a very young age, and that the devil himself had given him a belt which allowed him to transform, into his words, a greedy, devouring wolf.
And yet again, we have another confirmation from something that we heard in the first half. How having a belt or a pelt skin of the animal will allow the person to control the ability, right? That is really intriguing me that we keep running upon these verifications in different places.
Peter was publicly executed in an exceedingly brutal fashion. His flesh was first peeled from his body with red-hot pincers. All of his bones were then broken with an axe handle, and finally he was beheaded.
The reason that they pulled the skin back was because the idea was the hair grew inside the skin instead of outside, and it was a wolf inside that would turn inside out when it became a werewolf. Needless to say, they didn't find what they were looking for.
As a warning to any other potential werewolves, Peter's head was engraved with a wolf sign and placed on a post.
And I doubt many more werewolves come around that area for sure. But there is one more that I would like to cover before we close out tonight's episode. This creature is well known more in the southern bayou. Maybe you guys have heard of the rougarou.
Down in South Louisiana, they got a kind of werewolf they call a loup-garou. Unlike a regular werewolf, the loup-garou can turn into a wolf whenever they want to, not just at the full moon. Mama tell their babies, you better be good or the loup-garou gonna get you. And if the loup-garou get you, you turn into a wolf for 101 days.
And we all know that deep down in the south of Louisiana, there's a lot of paranormal goes on down there. A lot of haunted areas, a lot of voodoo and dark magic, and apparently a creature that likes to roam and hunt the night. The creature of the rougarou or loup-garou. I've seen it and heard it pronounced as both so far. But the rougarou, as we just heard, is maybe perhaps more than just a bedtime story to scare kids and keep them from being bad.
The rougarou is a cryptid and legendary creature from French lore that's history is often intertwined with that of the lycanthrope or werewolf. It's often told that the rougarou possesses shape-shifting abilities and can take the form of various animals to suit its dark purposes.
This is the first time that I've heard that can take many animal shapes. I have only heard it as a werewolf-type creature.
The Rougarou is said to be a master of not only the spiritual and magical realms, but of the physical realm as well, possessing abilities not indifferent to creatures such as the Wendigo, such as unimaginable speed, inhuman strength, flawless senses, and ridiculous cunning.
The Wendigo is a creature we shall cover in a whole nother episode.
But should one happen to catch a Rougarou between transformations, most accounts describe it as standing between 7 and 8 feet in height, as having a massive human body with the head of a wolf, red eyes, razor-sharp teeth, and claws.
You know, that reminds me of the European werewolf that we heard about a little bit ago. Bigger and stronger than the North American werewolf. Perhaps that is where the origins of the werewolf of the bayou, the Rougarou, got its beginning.
Most encounters with this creature have occurred in the swamps of the greater New Orleans area, as well as connected states, with most involving harrowing tales in which witnesses barely escaped with their lives, or so they claim. Interestingly enough, while the Rougarou does sound completely horrifying, there are those who understand the surrounding lore that claim it's actually sacred, a balance bringer, and in tune with Mother Nature.
A bringer of balance, and perhaps that is what all these creatures of the night, these vampires and werewolves and all these dark creatures are actually made to do, to bring balance to the insanity of this world. Are werewolves real? Are there really creatures that stalk the night and turn to wolves by moon? Are there humans that are not exactly fully human? Or is it all just a great big hoax and a prank and nothing but mythology and folklore? In the end, ladies and gentlemen, you be the judge. We got to close it out. That's right, that's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for October 7th, 2020. I hope everybody's enjoyed our discussion on werewolves. I know I very much have. The den may be closing, guys, but don't you worry, the weekend fun has only just begun. Make sure you come back Thursday through Sunday for AJ the Rippin' Rabbit Hole live show. He's got a very Spooktober lineup coming this week. I happen to know that on Thursday night he's going to be discussing arachnophobia. Are you scared of spiders? I know I kinda don't like them myself. I used to be very scared of them. Are you? Well, tune in. Maybe you'll find out a way to get over that fear. Then on Friday, he'll be talking about funeral homes. How creepy a place is that? I don't even want to guess what he's going to be discussing with that. Those are just creepy places. Then Saturday, he'll be discussing horror movies. Ooh, what was your favorite horror movie, right? Mine was Saw. I also like the old Wolfman, but I love those Saw movies. Are you into the gory, or do you like the psychological scary? Horror movies will be on Saturday. Then Sunday, he'll be talking about scarecrows and clowns. A lot of people get scared from the clowns. And the scarecrows, those are just creepy creatures anyway. But what were the origins, right? I'm sure he'll cover that and much, much more on Sunday. And that is the week here on Ripon, Common Sense Radio, for this spooktacular weekend. I hope everybody enjoys the shows. Speaking of enjoying, I'm going to go over to the place that I enjoy the most. That is the RiponRabbitHole.com. That's right. RiponRabbitHole.com. That's right. Over there you're going to find the 24/7 Backstage VIP Lounge. That's where I likes to hang out. I'll be there right after this show. I guarantee you guys to hang out and continue the conversation on werewolves. That's right. Because for you guys, the conversation ends here. But for the Rippin' Rabbits, the conversation is only beginning. So go on over to the RiponRabbitHole.com. Select that Backstage 24/7 Lounge. Scroll halfway down the page to hit the VIP entrance. Come on in and join us for a spectacular time. Also, while you're over there, make sure you check out our multiple rabbit holes. That's right, that is our groups over there. We have groups on Lucid Dreaming by Juanito 1975. We've got the AJ's Ripon Rabbit Hole group, and we've got the Dark Wolf's Den Show group, as well as topics and discussions. If you have an idea for a show topic, make sure you drop us a line. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And on behalf of AJ the Ripon Rabbit and everybody at Ripon Common Sense Radio, we thank you for being here for this spectacular weekend. And remember always, stay awake, but dare to dream. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that famous howl means the weekend for you has begun. Yahoo! Hi everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit. Did you enjoy tonight's look at werewolves? If you enjoyed the Dark Wolf's Den show, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. I'll be back again tomorrow night, Thursday, with a look at arachnophobia. Are you afraid of spiders? Tune in tomorrow night and find out perhaps why and what can be done about it. That's Thursday, October 8th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Then Friday, October 9th, a look inside funeral homes. We're going to look inside the industry of the dead. Believe it or not, you will not believe where this rabbit hole goes. And then Saturday night, we'll take a look at horror movies and cult classics. What makes the horror movies have such an impact on us? Tune in to Saturday night, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and find out. Then we'll end out the weekend together Sunday, October 10th, with Scarecrows and Clowns. The clowns are coming to town. And perhaps they scare you. I know they scare me, and so do scarecrows. So Sunday night, we'll end out the weekend together right during Spooktober with Scarecrows and Clowns. That's Sunday, October 10th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. It's going to be a great, fun, spooky lineup for Spooktober the rest of the weekend. I can't wait. If you haven't done so already, please make your way on over to riponrabbithole.com. There you can jump on our mail list. We'll send you out our weekend schedule every Wednesday morning. Also, explore our community-generated press. A lot of really great areas to explore there. The rabbit hole groups, Juanito 1975, Dark Wolf's Den, maybe it's Mandela Effect groups, aliens and spaceships, health and wellness, computers and technology. There's a lot of really cool stuff to explore, as well as the Backstage VIP 24/7 VIP chat lounge. It's a lot of fun. You just click over to riponrabbithole.com, click on 24/7 Backstage, and you can enter your camera and your microphone. You pull up a chair, you come in, you sit along with other people. 12 seats available. People usually from all over the world, where the conversation continues at the Ripon Rabbit Hole Backstage. So, wherever you are, good morning, good evening, or good day, whatever the case may be, until we meet again, I'm AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. Take care of yourselves and each other. Good night. Are you ready for the ultimate Halloween experience? This year, with all the social distancing taking place, Halloween, contrary to popular belief, has not been canceled. I repeat, Halloween has not been canceled. The Ripon Rabbit Hole is proud to sponsor a unique virtual Halloween event taking place October 15th through the 31st exclusively at ourtrickortreat.com. That's O-U-R, trickortreat.com. Sign up and knock on virtual doors for 17 days straight to win a variety of prizes from national, state, and local sponsors. Check out ourtrickortreat.com for the ultimate Halloween experience this year.
Unlocked and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. Is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? Just illusion, manifestation, or a dark delusion?